Okay, so we're going to be looking at two things here. One to do with how the public services try and ensure they have a diverse workforce, and then secondly, how do the public services try and provide equality of service to groups within society. So, as it says, public service is funded by public money, which means they need to try and ensure that they are upholding the highest standards in respecting equality and diversity. Society, public money, they are diverse, therefore the public services need to try and make sure they are as diverse as possible, and also try and act like a role model to other members of society. It's very difficult for society to say, well, we're trying to be diverse, but if the public services aren't being diverse, then why should we bother? So within the services there are going to be different procedures and policies that try and ensure that equality and diversity is respected within the organisation and tries to make sure that people feel happier. If you haven't got any of these policies in place, then you might not get a diverse workforce, because people might not feel that they're going to be protected, people might not feel comfortable going to work if they've heard particular things. So all of these procedures are going to be within the services. If you've got a job, then you might have kinds of policies and procedures within your workplace. At the college, we've got lots of procedures and policies to try and make sure that staff feel safe and happy, students feel safe and happy. So obviously equal opportunities policies, we've talked about what equal opportunities is. Yeah, it's not treating everybody the same, but it's making sure that people try, or that we treat people differently to ensure that they have the same opportunities. Grievances, so this is thinking about what happens if you're not happy. If you're not happy within an organisation, if you want to complain about somebody, is there a way for you to be able to do that? Because if people don't feel that they complain, if they don't feel that by highlighting an issue it will get changed, then they're not going to do that. They might leave the organisation, or they might feel that organisation isn't being equal and diverse. It might be that you want to complain about your organisation itself, not just an individual. So there has to be procedures in order for you to do that. Bullying and harassment at work, again, pretty obvious. People should be able to come to work and do their work without being bullied or harassed by either members of their own organisation, members of other organisations, or members of the public. And what can they do if those kind of things are happening? Anti-discriminatory, again, thinking about the public services, are they diverse? Are they discriminating against people, first of all, who are trying to get into the services? Are they discriminating against people that are working within the services? And are the public services discriminating against members of the public? So we could look back at PACE, and we could think about the Brixton riots, how that came about. Is the Metropolitan Police, for example, institutionally racist? Are they picking on certain demographics, etc.? Do the fire brigade only employ white men? All of these kinds of things. And then making sure that those all that data is stored. All right. So when we come on to the next bit, you're going to be looking at, are the public services diverse? There's some things on Moodle that you can look at. Recording that data. Is there a trend? Is there a shift? Is it diverse? All right. And also, when you want to complain, what is the procedure in order to complain? Yeah. If people don't feel they can complain, then they're not going to maybe use that service. They're not going to trust that particular service. Or if they can complain, what happens to it then? Is that complaint taken forward? Is there any change once they've complained? All right. So if someone has maybe been discriminated against and then they complain, was there a change? Did they get an apology? If nothing happened, then they're obviously going to feel that that organisation isn't respecting equality and diversity. Okay. So, looking at diversity. So these are 4 questions that you would think about. All right. Are the services diverse, and what is your evidence? So on Moodle, there is some equality and diversity data. It's about a year out of date now, so you could see if you could try and track down the 2019 data. Do you think all the services are diverse? Are some services more diverse than others? We briefly looked at it at the beginning when we were looking at the demographic of the country compared to the demographic of different public services. Are they thinking about tackling it? How are they trying to go about making themselves more diverse? Do they think that it's successful? So then we've got to think about, how do the public services cater for the needs of their employees? So within each public service, there's going to be an organisation which is there to represent the employees. Because you might say that the organisation isn't always going to have the employees' best interests at heart. So it can be things like unions, it can be smaller organisations within that. And the idea being is they will provide services for their employees, which could be things like legal advice and representation. So if something goes wrong in your job, or there's an accident or anything that happens, can you be covered? Will they provide you with legal advice and representation if it goes to court? Will they provide you with somebody? All of these things cost money, but within the public services, and if you're in a union, they should supply this for free, or part of your union membership. All right, can they provide counselling and support? We talked about it when we did composure. If you see some nasty stuff, are the public services going to be there to try and help you out? Are they going to negotiate your pay? All right, organisations are never going to want to pay more. So are they going to be trying to get you more money? Are they going to be thinking about the conditions that you have to work under? Are they going to be thinking about the health and safety conditions that you need to work under? A lot of stuff going on at the moment about the NHS and PPE. Are they getting enough? The workers are saying they're not. Their union representation is saying not. And then you've got the health secretary saying, no, there's plenty. So looking at all these kinds of things, and then how are they going to be able to lobby the government? Are they going to be able to put pressure on the government? Are they going to be able to get what they need? And then lastly, thinking about giving advice. If you feel that you've been discriminated against, have you actually been discriminated against? If you have, what's the next course of action? If you feel you've been harassed, have you been harassed? All right, what is the next course of action? So all of these things, if an organisation has all these, it's going to actually lead to a more diverse workforce, because people are going to be considering what they're doing a lot more. They're going to be thinking about equality and diversity rather than just harassing people, making stupid jokes, making people feel uncomfortable, etc. So the last bit, or the next P criteria, is thinking about how do the public services try and provide an equal service to all members of society. All right, so think about the different groups that we have in society. How can the public services try and provide an equal service for all of those? So it can be things like giving information in different languages. So a lot of people are saying, oh, they should speak English when they come over here. Well, what about if people are over here on holiday? What if people are studying and their English isn't as good as your foreign language skills obviously are? So being able to provide information in different languages, being able to provide interpreters for people that might be struggling. All right, if you've got someone that's visually impaired or hearing impaired, how are you going to present important information to them? All right, everyone had a letter from Boris about COVID-19. Well, that's lovely, but it was a letter. What about if you're visually impaired? You're just going to get a piece of paper through the post that you're not going to be able to see. There's been a lot of talk at the minute about the daily briefings that the government are holding, and the fact that there's nobody there doing sign language. So if you're hearing impaired, how are you supposed to get the same service from the government that normal hearing people have? Obviously, accessible buildings, ramps, lifts, etc. All right, so if people want to go to a hospital, people want to go to a police station, people want to go to a government building, can they get in there? All right, is it accessible for people that need to go in there? All right, then thinking about training people within your organisation with regards to things like religion, all right, to culture and disability, because not everybody necessarily has the skills to be able to deal with those kind of things and deal with them in a sensitive manner. So it can be something as simple as having a training day on how to deal with particular religions. I say deal with, how to empathise with particular religions, to give more knowledge about certain things, how to consider people's disabilities, what kind of disabilities do they have, what can they do, what can't they do, so people can be far more sensitive and empathetic towards people from different backgrounds. All right, how can the public services make sure that particular hate crimes can be reported? All right, so again, if people are feeling vulnerable, if people are feeling that are harassed, etc., how can they report those particular things in a way that is going to be meaningful, in a way that they might not necessarily need to walk into a police station? Is there a way they can do it online? Is there a way that they can do it with someone coming to their house? All right, mini common text phones, well, that links back up to our visually and hearing impaired access. All right, how can people with those particular disabilities get kinds of information? All right, and even going as far as having specialist officers within the organisation that deal particularly with equality and diversity. So going back up to the specialist training, Yeah, these can be people that whose job it is to understand what equality and diversity is, to be able to advise people within the organisation, to train other people, etc. All right, so I think two parts to this. First part, how do the public services try and have a diverse workforce, is one part. Second part is what we've got on the screen at the moment. All right, how do the public services try and provide an equal service? And you can see if you can find some examples of that. Okay.